kind we put at the front of the soul. He points to emphasize. They are good, pa. From the corner of my eye, I see Yao grimace, as though imagining the extra noise he will make when walking down the hallways in school. Dar's hands tighten on our shoulders, which means he's thinking about it, weighing the shoe lifespan benefits against the cost. He turns to me. Kojo, what do you think? I shrugged. It doesn't really matter since almost everyone at school has heel protectors, and the hallways are a constant percussion of chaos anyway. I think it's a great idea, says Dar, taking off his own shoes to hand to JC to upgrade. His socked feet etching striated packed footprints on the red dust road. Yao doesn't say a word as we walk back home. We have all become quieter. We queue to buy bread on Tuesdays. We queue for cooking oil and maize once a month. We trek to Food Distribution Corporation in the industrial area with chits when we hear they have a new consignment of rice. These are all contemplative activities. People smile in the queues, but they don't laugh. When you eat only once a day, you save your energy for the very best laughs. That's what Yao told me 2 days ago when we were in our bedroom reading. That made me laugh. Dao walks about 3 paces ahead of us, occasionally saying something over his shoulder to keep up our spirits. He has been doing this since he called us to an early morning meeting to explain to us that the only way he could promise to feed us every day was if we only had one meal a day. We were not surprised. All our friends at school were already eating one meal a day. Dao had held out longer than most families, and we were sure he'd done it by eating less himself. We can't tell him that we supplement our evening meal by foraging for wild fruits in the vicinity of our school at great times. We are not even sure what we are eating. We trust the friends who tell us they are edible, but we still nibble at the edges of these bright, sweet, and sour mysteries. Wait a few seconds for our bodies to accept them before we devour them. Our friends come from all over the country. Some are from farming and hunting villages. This is how they know the things that we don't. Once, after school, 6 of us, including Abebe said the Joker, went out with catapults and killed 3 koko. We wrapped them in akokobesa leaves, put them in the ground whole, the feathers giving off smoke that made us cough, until they came out smelling like heaven. Abebe said we should have taken out the gallbladders before cooking them, but Yao said pigeons don't have gallbladders. Still, the flesh was bitter around the stomachs of the birds, but we ate them anyway, even their heads. We can't tell Dad these things. He's a proud man. His thin frame loses detail as the sun sets. He has a small brown pouch under his left armpit that we call Alibaba, because he manages to extract unusual treasures from it. Like the chit from his boss that allowed him to collect 2 whole dressed chickens a couple of weeks earlier. His lanky silhouette, left arm immobile, darkening before our eyes, is the shape we are meant to grow into. I hope my outline will not be as stoned. We don't know when Mama is coming back. As we near the still green hedge that surrounds our home, Yao speaks. I can't even do Michael Jackson moves with my shoes. My feet slip all the time. I laugh. I have seen him trying. It's like watching a grasshopper dancing with horseshoes. Da is silent. He pauses briefly before swinging open the wooden gate that marks the only break in the rectangle of our head. His head drops. I stop laughing. I think I've laughed too much. When we step off the sand of the path onto the lino tiles of the veranda, our shoes click in time and Da clicks his fingers. He transforms into a spinning, jumping machine. We have never seen him like this. He's making music with his feet, with a smile as wide as the one on the wedding picture that dominates our living room. He looks off balance because he is still holding Alibaba in place with his left arm, while his right arm is all over the place. When he stops, he's out of breath. Yao, he puts his arm around my brother. You can still tap dance. I will teach you. Charlie, these new protectors are great. He puts Alibaba beside him on the low wall of the veranda and motions for us to sit with him. After the Second World War, when I was a few years younger than you are now, I think 7, an American soldier from New York came to live not far from us, by your grandma's house in Cuba. He saw me dancing in the street and called me. For 1 year, he taught me this kind of dance. He used to make me dance barefoot in front of his friends. Have I told you about the Nicholas brothers? Dad jumps off the wall. I have a tape. Dad has a collection of Betamax videotapes with no labels. The Betamax player was a gift from his boss, and we are not allowed to touch it. Dad says if your boss is always giving you gifts, it is a sign you are not being paid what you are worth. However, the Betamax player is rare. The tapes are from a childhood friend of Dad's who is also an accountant, but lives in Chattanooga in America. I can tell even Yao is happy. We forget we are hungry. Some weeks later, Dara returns from work and triumphantly produces from Alibaba a white, green, and black card that says the first shampoo hair show, 1983. Yao makes the kind of face that I conclude only an 11-year-old can make. Don't you think that it's odd that people should be thinking about shampoo in the middle of a drought? Dara shakes his head. We are lucky to have these for free. Other people are paying 350 cedis per family for entry. He opens the double fold card to the page where, above a row of green stars, a swirl of blue ink, and a Boolean scroll announces free refreshment. Dara has that big wedding smile again. I feel my stomach move with a kind of anticipation I felt after the coup d'etat, when we all cleaned the streets as though preparing to lay the foundations of a new country. Nobody expected the drought then. Fixed rules and dogma cannot apply successfully to all this diversity. Short hair, long hair, hard lines, soft lines, these are scarcely philosophies. Yao has taken the card from that. He can't hold back his laughter as he reads the introduction text. They are no more than part of the artist's infinite variety of choice. Dara smiles. You are laughing now, but that's the best meal you'll have until Christmas. We are not going for our hair. But this sounds like an art show. Are you sure there'll be real food there? This ticket is from your Auntie Sally. He knows the organizer. Auntie Sally, Yao holds his head. Auntie Sally is Mama's sister, but she's not known for her thoughtfulness. She only turns up on our doorstep when she needs something. Dara says Mama's family have lived in Accra for 3 generations. None of them go to the village anymore, so one of them was bound to become that way. What did she want? Yao and I ask at the same time. Dara laughs in spite of himself. Nothing. Yao raises both eyebrows. Dara. Okay, she wanted to know how I got the chicken. She couldn't take the invitation back when I told her it was a gift from my boss. We roll around laughing, and I know that this is one of the very best laughs that Yao means. Sometimes we don't mind that it's just the 3 of us. Yao and I have cooked yam with egg stew, and Dara is back from work to eat us. We miss Mama, but we are fine. She will be proud of us. When the morning of the hair show arrives, we rise early to do our chores. On Saturdays, we scrub all the floors. I clean the toilet bowl by hand with a worn boot brush that has lost all the blue paint that gave it vibrancy before. And Yao cleans the mildew growing on the grout between the bathroom tiles before coaxing the whole room to a shine. We keep the Vim cleaning powder in the corridor so we can both reach it. We do the louver blades last, taking them out of the aluminium frames just as the sun is rising. We have hated Saturdays since the drought began. Less food and more dust seems like a cruel trick of fate. But today we are happy. We ferry the louver blades outside and sit on the veranda steps, soapy water sloshing between us. When Yao chuckles, I know he's thinking about Auntie Sally, and I chuckle too, leaning to bump his shoulder with mine. Dara wakes up humming the Calypso song that Lord Kitchener wrote for our independence, and we join him to drink last day tea, which is reassuringly tasteless, meaning that Dara will take out a new tea bag tomorrow. He gives us very dry biscuits, pale and perfect with the last day tea, leaving a teaspoon's worth of thick jara at the bottom of our cups to finish breakfast with. After all this, it's still only 9 a.m., and the first shampoo hair show starts at 4 p.m. We have to curb our anticipation somehow. Dara turns the radio on, and after some announcements informing us of gifts of yellow corn and sunflower oil from the West, and food aid from the UN, we hear Flight Lieutenant Jerry Rollins talking about perseverance and change, and believing in better days coming. His voice fades into the background, but it's a comfort to us to know that someone cares enough about our hunger to ask us to persevere. And we see him on TV in the evenings. He's thinner than that. If better days don't come, the adults will disappear first. Their shadows will swallow them, and then we'll be sucked into the vacuum they leave behind. Yao grabs a book from the bookshelf and goes to read it in bed. I stand outside and stare at lizards loping back and forth in the hazy boundary between the blinding sunlight and the shadows cast by our heads. Dara taught us how to start fires using sun rays and a magnifying glass, and I find myself wondering what lizards taste like, or chameleons. What color do chameleons turn when cooked? I head to the bedroom as well, take a cowboy comic from under my pillow, and get lost in the Midwest. Dara wakes us up at 2:30 p.m. to get ready. Normally, to get to ATTC, where the show is, we would drive through industrial area to Palm Nkrumah sector and up the ring road to Kokomimbi. But Dara's car is low on petrol, so we have to use a route with more downs than ups. That way, speaking to a friend, and he said, 83 is a whole novel. I said, no, it's not a novel. It's an encyclopedia. Anyway, that way, that cuts the engine when the car is going downhill, puts the gear in neutral, and releases the handbrake. We glide. Gliding actually feels better than driving because you feel you are winning something back from the world. But it is slow, and you have to know the city well. Instead of going by Kwame Nkrumah Circle, we turn off between Kesano and Industrial Area, cross over in Sawam into Alajo, Bakutobabi and Newtown, and glide downhill through Nima to Wembley. Dad flashes his card at the gate, and we are inside. There are hairdressers trimming and styling hair, and a handful of pioneering customers are sporting jerry curls, which is a new craze. All the stalls, banners, bunting, and posters are green and white, like the invitation card. It's like paper. It's like a paper, fabric, and plastic jungle. I remember that it's Christmas Day in 8 days. That is why Dad's chickens are mocking us with their featherless wings from the depths of our freezer. By 5:30, we have seen every hairstyle twice. We try to look interested, but Yao and I have our noses tuned for food. And even Dad's eyes are as keen as a leopard's as we loaf back and forth between the school buildings and the show area, our heels and toes clicking each time we encounter concrete. Dad points at the poster. Look, they have entertainment later. Is there a poster for refreshments? Yao says. Eventually, Dad asks a green and white clad attendant where he can find Auntie Sally. I don't think she's here, he says, but check that building. The nail on his index finger is too long, but we follow the path it suggests and come to a small square building painted white with black wooden windows and a door in sharp contrast. Like our house, it's encircled by a hedge with a gap that serves as the entrance. As we walk through the gap, I hear a guitar and the gentle thump of a djembe drum. The guitar stops and starts one note, then a pause, then again. Dad knocks on the door with the flesh of his fingertips. A woman with a severely curved perm opens it wide with a smile. Can I help? Dad pops his head around the door. Is Sayamankwa here?
Hello.
No, I think. Before she can finish, Dad points at the buffet table in the middle of the room. I feel a rumble in my belly before the aromas register, as though my stomach has become more perceptive than the rest of me. Are those the refreshments? Dad asked. Eyes fixed on the mounds of rice, gari photo, roast chicken, fried fish, and salad distributed artfully on the steady wood table. We know this is what we have made our pilgrimage for. Are you performers? Asked the lady. This is for the performers. A moment passes, like the gap of silence that falls after a baby falls, before it starts boiling. The room darkens behind the woman, flushed by the phenomenon of sunset. I take one step back, but Yao steps forward, beyond dark, and nods. We are dancers. Yao jumps with his percussive shoes and replicates Fayad Nicholas's smile perfectly. Dad claps and leaves with an opening sequence. Yao copies him, and I follow, past the bemused woman into the room. And we dance, turning to silhouettes. We dance to settle our stomachs. So that's the first part. So after you can come and tell me your 83 story. I'll turn them into an encyclopedia. Is everyone okay? If anyone wants to ask a question, I need to take a break before I get into the novel. I won't read very much from it. Very, very short passages.
All right.
But yes, if you want to ask a question, you're very welcome. It gives me a break. It allows me to sober up. Are you there, my brother? Please. Go, boy, on there. Okay, no questions.
So there's one here.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm not testing the power of your memory,
Uh-huh.
but I'm just trying to find out at what point did you conjure the happenings of 83? Because obviously, whilst you were living it, you were not thinking of putting it together into a book.
Oh no.
So after how many years, and what made it so easy for you to bring out these memories so vividly?
I mean, yes, you're right. It's what, 31 years ago. This stuff. And I found that once I started jotting things down, I could remember so much that it was actually the trick was not to overburden the story with detail, but just have enough so that you got a sense that, because you have to remember that when we were living it, it was normal for us. So you can't make it extraordinary. It has to be normal. So that was actually the task for me, was not to make it too much, for it to be just enough so that you know that, okay, that certain things they have to consider, but they're not thinking every second, yeah, I'm hungry, yeah. But yeah, I mean, I remember quite vividly a lot of 83. Also because, I mean, for me, well, I was 9 years old. Um, so it was a time of awakening. All the girls I liked, it started around that time, you know,
The disco time.
uh and then dancing to, my brother had just started Achimota. So he would come home with some dances and come and show us and try and do formation with us, and we would just copy him. But, you know, so it was a load of things happening at a particular time in my life. I suppose if I was younger, I'd remember less. And if I was older, maybe I'd remember different things. So, yeah. Lisbeth Irene, I know you were slightly older than me at the time. So you also remember other things, eh? Maybe some boys used to buy you cookie. The other day I was trying to remember when when we didn't have this plastic menace. I mean, obviously, it's nice to be able to buy pure water. But, when we used to buy the water, it used to be in these metal cups, eh? And you could tell how cold the water was by how much the cup would sweat when they poured the water in. I'm like, but now, you have to worry about hepatitis and stuff. Anyway, so yes, long answer to your short question. Does anyone else have a question? Um, so Tale of the Bluebird is a very strange novel. It came to me in a very strange way. I just had this image of some remains in my head for a long time, and I never questioned it. I just let it sit there. So eventually, other things came to join the image, and the book grew out of it. But another thing that was very pivotal in that coming together was we all left home at some point. So I'm quite a bit older than my younger siblings. So when they were in secondary school, my brother and I were in university, but effectively the house was empty. But every time I'd come home to visit my mom, there'd be a child in the house. She'd adopt some kid off the street and look after them for a year, and then they'd go off. And I mean, my mom actually took our neighbor's kid from them because she said they were beating them too much, and looked after the kid, sent the kid to school until the kid was in boarding school, and then, that kind of thing. So I then had this image of a woman whose kids leave, but there are always kids coming back to her. So that became another layer. So there are all these layers that came together. But essentially, the book is about power. So it starts with the discovery of some remains in a village, and the whole book is to find out how the remains came to be there, and what happens, whether somebody is guilty, somebody is not guilty. But it's all about the power of the state. For instance, I mean, the villages, people go there for votes, but do you actually see policemen in villages, for instance? That kind of thing. And if we don't see them in villages, what are villages' conceptions of the policeman's power? And I used to trek with my dad. My dad was a consultant, so I used to get left in villages sometimes. So the guy we used to travel with was called Double Man, and he was Double Man in two ways. He was twice the size of an average man. He was a very big man, and but he also spoke about 12 Ghanaian languages. So my father really relied on him because sometimes we go to places and Double Man would just break into Kabani or Ebe or whatever is required. Double Man would break into. I think his father used to be a road contractor when he was little, and he used to take him around, just speak about language. So I had been in villages quite a bit, and being somebody who kind of grew up in the city, I grew up for about a year in Cape Coast and then Accra. It was quite a striking difference for me, and so all of these things, I guess, come to play. But I was trying to establish. The other thing that struck me when I lived in the village was the dignity of the languages, the way the languages in the city, the same people, somebody would say they were ignorant or something, but they had complete authority in that context. And so it made me really think about what we were thinking about our so-called education, which was actually just making us speak English better and forget all the other things that we should know about our country. So I was looking at that power, the power of the narrative of, is English better than our traditional language? Are all the things that we learn from the West better than what we have? Do we have our own way of generating rules and regulations and laws? Do we have ways in which we regulate our people so that, you know, there aren't excesses, that people don't misbehave too much? All those kinds of things. And then the fact that, of course, there are some things, I know the names in Tree and Gam, but I've never known the names in English, and I will never care what the name of Prekese is in English, because I don't use it in English. You know, so there's all of that going on. Anyway, the book itself is much simpler than all of that. So I will just read. I'll read a little bit at the beginning, and then a little bit in the middle, a little bit close to the end. So the book in French is called Notre quelque part, which means our somewhere. And so when I read the beginning, you'll understand why it's called that. Yeah, too little. I have a kind of gloss. Okay. So it's written in two voices. One is Openi Poku, in the village. He speaks. It's essentially the voice of the village. And then the other is K.O. Damtin, which is Kojo Okai Odamtin. But when he studied abroad and he couldn't say his name, so he ended up as K.O. But his is in third person. So this is a little bit from Openi Poku. The birds have never stopped singing. If you look, so Openi Pokus is also transliterated Tree. So I thought about what you want to say in Tree and wrote it in English. So if the syntax is slightly different, the English teachers, please relax. The birds have never stopped singing. If you look, you will see that whatever happens, the birds will sing their song. In my grandfather's time, the forest was thick and higher. We didn't have to go far to kill a hog. The sport began at the edge of the village, and the taste of boar meat was like water to us. We ate so much. I remember well. Now they have gone deep, the boar. But all things are in Onyame's white hands. Only Onyame, the shining one, knows why goat shit is so beautiful. We are not complaining. When I go to forest, I can see that the world is wonderful. The birds are all colors, red, sea blue, yellow, some like leaves, some white like fresh calico. What creatures can you not find there? The smallest catch I've ever brought home is a danko. Indanko is not hard to catch. Even when they hide, their ears stick up so you can see them. If I created them, I would have put their eyes on their pointed ears, keep them safe. But then I wouldn't be able to catch them. Maybe hunger would consume me. Indanko, they are fast, but I have many traps. That is a hunter's life. So we are not complaining. The village is good. We are close to the chief's village, and we can take any matters to him. But we have just 12 families, so we have no trouble. Apart from Kofiata. He's my relative. But before I learned how to wear cloth, my mother told me that he would bring heavy matters to us. I remember my father had brought Otri the night before, and she was cooking a benkwine. Yapoku, she said, when you are playing with your relative, look well, oh. Yo. Yapoku. My mother said things to me twice. I said, look well when you play with Kofiata, you hear? Yo. She took my hand and put hot soup in it for me to taste. Then she said, you don't know that the woman who helped him, his mother, lost the umbilical cord. She shook her head. It is not buried. That boy will bring trouble someday. So maybe I shouldn't be surprised. But I forgot. We don't think of these things. They are like light. In the day there is always light, so we don't think about it. But I, Yakubu, I'm a hunter. So light surprises me. I'm used to the dimness of forests, the way the light falls on me like incisions from a knife when I move. When I go to forest, sound is brighter than light, so light surprises me. The same way I was surprised guessed it was a young woman whose eyes would not rest. Hmm. Since you are here, let me tell you. The ancestors say that the truth is short, but Sebi, when the tale is bad, then even the truth stretches like a toad run over by a car on those new roads they are building. I, the one who crouches, the one who watches, I, Yaupoku, who has roamed the forest from Atewa to Kade, seen every duka, hawk, cobra, and leopard that turns this our head. I was surprised. But let me tell you the tale before it goes cold. It was my grandfather, Opoku, the one whose hands were never empty, who told me that the tale the Englishman calls history is mostly lies written in fine dye. This is no such tale. It is said that the wise weaver of webs, Anansi, did not sell speak. So I shall speak. I shall tell the tale. It was Kwesida, Nchikwesi, just 1 week before Kukwesi, when it would be a taboo subject to speak of death and funerals. Now, what you before we would pour libation for the ones on the other side. I'm sure of the day, but if you think I'm lying, you can check with the Bono, who have kept the days for Santini for centuries. We were at her somewhere when she came, the one whose eyes would not lie still. I myself was coming from the palm wine Harper's Hat. The woman who sells palm wine doesn't open on Kwesida. She went to live in the big city, Accra, for 6 years, and when she came back, she refused to work on Sundays. Before she went to the city, she used to sell tomatoes at the roadside, but that's another story. The palm wine tapper gave me a large calabash of his special, and I was going back to my hut when I heard the woman scream like a grass cutter in a trap. I don't play with my palm wine. No, no, no. So I went to put it in the corner of my hut. Then I came to the timbua tree in the village center. She was wearing these short skirts on, showing her thighs Sebi, but her legs were like a baby or two's two front legs. It was later I found she was some minister's girlfriend. The world is full of wonders. Her driver was wearing khaki up and down like a polo man, and he wanted to hold her still, but the woman was shaking her head and screaming. And there she strengthened herself and ran towards the pale car at the roadside. The driver followed her rear like dust. When I asked the children, Oferi Wakusi and the twins, Penny and Kakra, who were playing in the village center, what happened, they said the cream Benz parked, and the woman was following a blue-headed bird. It's true that our village has many beautiful things. When she held her nose, she called her driver, and they sniffed the air like dogs until they got to Kofi Atta's hut. He said, I go, but nobody answered. Then the driver raised the curtain and held it up, and the woman went inside. That's when she screamed. It was still morning, and the sound made the forest go quiet. But it's what happened after they left that is wondrous. It is true. Even the eagle has not seen everything. So I'll jump to the middle. So I'll read little from Ko's voice, and then I think I'll just leave it there. Because there are lovely small chops going around. Some have not reached here. If I keep reading, they will not reach here. So we'll talk, and then the small chops can go around. There's food too, because if you want to order food. I don't, his chef is from Togo, not this one, a Ghana chef. They will put some pepper and all, and then they'll insult you. Let me see. Okay. So there's a guy for the PJ Donko and this thing. So half the time I have to tell them that this book is not law. But myself and a good friend of mine, another Ghanaian writer who grew up in Kumasi Zongo, he's in New York, Mohammed Nasir Ali. We have decided that we're going to write a book in which all the rough areas of Accra will write as though it's the best place to go. So when people read our books as tourism, they'll go there and be robbed and understand that fiction is fiction. People assume what I'm writing is fact, and I have to spend half the time telling them it's not fact. But there are two corrupt police officers in this thing, and they say all policemen are corrupt. I say no, there are some corrupt police officers, not all of them. But PJ Donko is one of them. But he's a very nice man. I like him. See, they say if you're writing fiction and you don't like your characters, nobody can relate to them. You have to understand that no bad man goes around thinking I'm a bad man. He just thinks he's outside so that you can meet PJ Donko. So KO was arrested for attempts to destabilize the country. This was some way to get into where KO is a forensic scientist, but he has been working in a biochemistry lab in Accra, like one of our guests here. And yeah, so he was asked to kind of help the police with the inquiries because of the minister's involvement. But his boss won't allow him, so the police found a way. Anyway, so he's waking up now in a special cell at police headquarters in the Ring Road. And one of the people who arrested him is Gaba. So Gaba has come to open the door. The door creaked to reveal Gaba in a crisp starch uniform. Free of the sweat of the day's policing, he looked youthful, about the same age as Kale, maybe slightly younger, mid-20s. Even Sergeant Ofosu looked different in daylight. Kale noticed he hadn't yet worn his cap. His hair was a neat helmet, and he had a ready smile. Ah, my friend, you are up. You didn't sleep well. I just have to tell you, when they arrested him, they actually took him to Blue Gate to eat because he was hungry. So they're very nice men. I did. Just a few mosquito bites. Sergeant Ofosu patted Kale's back. Good man. He held out a small package. I brought you a meat pie. They will not feed you in interrogation. Kale took it with his right hand and transferred it to his left. I am not going to interrogation. I want to make some phone calls. Sergeant Ofosu exchanged a look with Gaba. Kale noticed and decided to push the uncertainty to his advantage. He tried once more to remember the name of the officer who had asked him for him to be contacted, but he couldn't. My friend, we have instructions to take you to interrogation. Kale walked to the open window on the left and looked outside. The blue sky offered no answer. On the coast, palm trees swayed like waving hula dancers, haunting him. He raised the package in his left hand and unwrapped it. It looked good. He smelled it and took a bite. An airy pocket of warm chicken, chili, tomato, and flour suffused his mouth. He closed his eyes. Is it good? Sergeant Ofosu was watching him. It's very good. Where did you buy it? My wife makes them. Sergeant Ofosu smiled and placed his cap lightly on his head. Shall we go? No. Kale took another bite of the pie. I would like to speak to the DCC. I can't remember his name. If he had been arrested because of his links to the officer, he wanted to meet the man at least. A wave of puzzlement washed over Sergeant Ofosu's face. It's better than Labuani. It's not as loud. And a wave of puzzlement washed over Sergeant Ofosu's face. He looked towards the door where Gaba was standing, almost to attention. PRC, she offered Gaba. Donko. Yes. Kale clicked his fingers. Yes, I would like to speak to Inspector P.J. Donko. Sergeant Ofosu fixed Gaba with a stern look, then barked. Gaba, how many times do I have to tell you? You call your superiors by their name and title. Sorry, Sergeant. Inspector Donko, Sergeant. Kale strode to the middle of the room. I would like to speak to Inspector P.J. Donko, please. Gaba, go and find out if he's here. Sergeant Ofosu sat on the edge of the old sofa. Now, my friend, I can't make any promises, but we will try for you. Thank you. The pie was good. Kale nodded. She wants to start catering. You think she'll do well? Kale nodded again. The view is not bad, eh? Sorry, I don't know. Sergeant Ofosu rubbed his hands and pointed at the building next door. CID. I wanted to work there for investigations. But because I schooled in the village, I had no connections. CID is full of you city boys. They put the rest of us on the road. Besides, but it's not too bad. Ah, where's Gaba? He tapped the side of the sofa and stood up. In fact, let's go downstairs. So they meet PJ Donko. So the reason why I'm reading here, I had to watch lots of CSI to write this book. So I had to mention it in the book. So I'm going to find where it's mentioned. I'll read up. Jump small. The inspector was a short, dark man with graying hair at his temples. He had an intense stare and a twitch in his left cheek. There was a plaque in black and gold with his full name, Percival Joseph Donko, and beneath it his title, Police Regional Coordinating Chief. He dismissed Garba and Sergeant Ofosu with a tired wave of his hands and indicated a chair for Ken to sit. He formed the pyramid with his hands and rested his twitch against it, as though he was preparing to sleep. He moved to adjust the paperweight on his right so that it was at a 45-degree angle to the edge of the desk. He leaned his cheek back against his pyramid. So you are K.O. Damti? Yes. You are young. He made it sound like an accusation. Yes. I hear you want to make phone calls. Yes, but I wanted to speak to you as well. I think you may be the reason I was arrested. Have you watched Law and Order? The man didn't seem to have heard him. Yes. The inspector laughed, exposing the tiniest teeth K.O. had ever seen. They looked like they belonged to a mouse or a puppy. This was no friend or co-accused. He was the brains behind K.O.'s arrest. So you want 2 phone calls? Yes, 3 if possible. The inspector pushed his black telephone across the table towards K.O. Everything in the office was black, except the floor. The edges of the tables and cabinets, and the window frames, which were wood. Wawa, deep brown, from the Ashanti window. It was a good thing the windows were large. Otherwise, the office would have felt like the inside of the coffin. K.O. picked up the handset to dial, but the inspector held up his hand. Before you dial, you are aware that you have been arrested for planning to overthrow the government, right? For attempting to destabilize the government, they said. Well, now it's more serious. You have arrested 2 of your co-conspirators who have confessed that you were planning a deal to import light firearms into the country yesterday, between the 10 hours and 12 hours. Can you account for your whereabouts? Of course, I was at work. Well, I would make that your first priority. Otherwise, I will have no choice but to move you to a maximum security establishment. K.O. exhaled. He was beginning to smell his own stench. He hadn't showered since yesterday and he was sweating. Can I call my work, please? The inspector opened his arms. Good morning, Aquabar Research. Can I help you? Good morning, Eunice. Can you put me through to Mr. Aqua? Hold the line, please. K.O. frowned. Eunice usually had more to say to him than hold the line. He looked up at the inspector. He was smiling. There was a shuffle and a cough on the other end. Yes, good morning. Who is this? Mr. Aqua. It's me, K.O. K.O. who? I don't know anyone by that name. K.O. Damti, your senior researcher. Don't you recognize my voice? K.O. moved the handset to his left hand. His palms had less traction than silk. Look, young man, I don't know who you are talking about. This is a busy laboratory. I don't have much time. But Mr. Aqua. There was a click, then silence. K.O. looked up at the inspector. He was smiling again. K.O. wanted to crush his mouth's jaw. Okay, so what's going on here? I would like to play your games, but I don't have time. If I'm here for conspiracy, why am I not at CID next door? Mr. K.O., please remember who you are talking to. The inspector's voice was even as the objects arranged on his desk. His left cheek twitched once. He said he wanted 3 phone calls. That was 1. Do you want the other 2? No, Inspector. I don't mean to be rude, but I want to know what's going on. Inspector Donko sat back in his armchair. K observed for the first time that the top of the man's head was level with the back of the black leather chair. Do you know how this country is run? No. K.O. meant it. Well, the police force is civil service. So is the prison service, the fire service, sports and harbors, and the military. I'm sure you know that. K.O. nodded. The thing is, the higher levels of civil service are not attained by merit or number of years of service. It's purely by appointment. That means the minister decides who will become chief of police, IGP. Inspector Donker pulled open a drawer and removed a large laminated sheet. He placed it on the table and spread it out. It was an organizational chart. I am an ambitious man. This post, he pointed at his plaque, did not even exist until I was given it. Now I am 3 levels below the highest post in the police force. He snapped his finger at the chart. I intend to get to the top before I retire. Are you with me? I think I understand. The inspector replaced the chart and closed the drawer, held a careful. not give you time off. That's true. I also understand that some years ago you applied to join the force and were turned back. His mouth had the beginnings of a smile that Kay wanted to stamp on. Yes, 11 months ago. Then we understand each other. No, Inspector, I still don't understand. Kay clenched his fist beneath the table. The man spoke in concentric circles. The words came from the same place, but drew entirely individual paths. Inspector Duncan smiled. Have you watched CSI? Yes, that's you. He gave Kay a meaningful look. Kay frowned, still confused. I hear you're a forensics man. I am. So we have a case in a village near Accra that we need your help. It's not even a case we would have bothered with, though. But the Minister for Roads and Highways is sleeping with a girl from Accra. She discovered some human matter, and the Minister himself called me that day to ask me to deploy some men. Now he's interested in the results. The inspector tapped the edge of his table with his middle finger as if he was counting seconds. The minister's interest means opportunity for promotion. Not just promotion, but also bonuses. Bonuses are the lifeblood of the civil servants. Our official salaries are a joke. He laughed heartily. Kay was surprised at how melodious the laugh sounded. He smiled. The inspector rebuilt his pyramid. And for you, maybe, if you are successful, a new job. Head of new forensics techniques. And what if I'm not successful? Shall we not talk about failure? It makes me uncomfortable. The inspector's cheek twitched twice. Thank you. So I've finished my part. Is everyone okay? All right. Thank you very much for your attention.
I'd like to find out, is it available locally?
The book is available in Silverbed. And, well, I think Citrus Innocent is closing. I don't know if it's closed yet, but it's there as well. I don't have any copy of it. I ran out. In the corner, could you hear me there? Oh, good. I wasn't coughing for nothing. Anybody else have a question? I'll start asking questions. Okay, in that case.
Okay, I have a question. What are you working on now?
Well, the short story I read is from a collection of short stories that I'm working on. I should finish soon. They're not all, set in Ghana, but they're all set in cities. The collection is called "The City Will Love You," and it's exploring the way in which behavior changes when people move to cities, how the city affects the way people relate to each other and behave, etc. So it starts with a very short piece, which touches a little bit on 83. So that's the other place where it's meant to. But one of the things that happened around that time, a couple of my friends from primary school, they met their fathers for the first time because they were sacked from Agege, Nigeria, where they were working. So, well, I mean, I wouldn't say they met them for the first time, but they consciously met them for the first time because they'd gone to work when they were younger. So that really short story that's actually called "The City Will Love You" is about one of those incidents where a father who'd been a mechanic